Oh my god. Alright, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I am Alan Callahan. I am a current student at Catawba College. I'm a psychology major. I just finished an experiment in my experimental psychology class about socialism and capitalism, basically. It's collectivist and individualist practices and like how they affect people's distribution behavior in a prompted society. If you have any questions about that, you can always message me or email me. My email is, I'll put my email in my bio and everything. But yeah, so you can email me if you have any questions about it. Yeah, today I'm going to interview my wife, Jasmine Hoffner, about a concept similar for my English class. We're writing a paper on an argument that's multimodal, and I'm doing this video interview for that one aspect of the multimodal part. But today's interview is about how socialism can be better for the society, how it can create a more just, compassionate society and a healthier planet. Jasmine is a current grad student at University of North Carolina, Greensboro. She is working on her master's. She's almost finished. She's about to graduate in like the next couple weeks. She's about to graduate with her master's in history with a concentration in museum studies. Yeah. And yeah, I will let her tell you a little bit about herself before we get started. Her academic background, pretty much.
Hello, everyone. I went to the University of Illinois at Chicago, and I was a Black Studies major. Most of my education has been centered in history, of course, and my personal and academic interest is in Black diaspora studies or African diaspora studies. Right now, I'm basically finishing my graduate capstone project, which was with a local nonprofit here called Triad Cultural Arts. I have been working with them on the Shotgun House exhibition site of a formerly historically Black neighborhood called Happy Hill. I wrote the exhibition panel text and 2 curricula for local K-12 schools and for the docents and tour guides at the site. Hopefully in the very near future, I'll be working as an archivist at Davidson College or as a museum clerk at the Davidson County Historical Museum.
Okay, now we'll get to the questions. So the first question is about socialism in society, right? So the first one is going to be personal perspective. How do you personally define socialism, and what aspects of it resonate most with you?
Well, when I think of socialism, I obviously think of society as central to the system. You know how I feel about capitalism. I despise capitalism, actually. But that's kind of getting off topic. I don't feel like qualified to be speaking about socialism, but I do have like a basic understanding of like some principles. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
So how do you personally define socialism, and what aspects of it resonate most with you?
So I understand socialism as a system that ensures that all people within a society have an equal place in the society and equal access in the society. That's like the very, very basics of my understanding. And you said, how could it lead to a more...
Well, but right now you're just personally defining socialism, and what aspects of it resonate with you most?
Aspects that resonate with me is really like people, no matter their financial or class background, have equal access to all of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Not benefits of society, but like social programs, like Social Security. I understand that as like a socialist program.
Yeah, and that's the gist of socialism. Like I have a very basic understanding of socialism too. I'm not like like we're obviously not professors or anything like that, but you know, like socialism basically is just like this economic system that allows for people to have a equal chance, basically. So yeah.
And the means of production, the means of production in socialism are more of like, well, they should be in the hands of the people. And it's like one like major point that helps me to differentiate between different economic systems. And like socialism and communism, there are literally like sub what do you call that? And there are different iterations of socialism. There's like different also iterations of communism. Like there is anarcho-communism, there's agrarian socialism, so there's very different kinds of branches of socialism, but like that's the central tenet, is that the people of the society are controlling the means of production.
Yeah.
While communism understands the government that controls the means of production.
Yeah, so socialism can also be the government controls the means of production, but it's usually like the focus is on the people controlling the means of production. And I think people get socialism confused with communism. And they think that socialism is exactly the same as communism, and that it only the means of like everything is central. The government is central to everything, and it's not always the case in socialism, but it is a very common theme with socialism. All right, so the next question is going to be about social justice. And so, in what ways do you think socialism can contribute to creating a more just society?
Let me talk about like briefly hyper-individualism in the United States and how capitalism is at the center of that, because it actually reinforces that and asks us to only really care about ourselves and look out for ourselves, like and it doesn't it definitely doesn't foster community. It's exactly the opposite, and I see socialism as being capitalism's opposite. It is intended or designed to bring people together and have them actually being in community with each other, which is something that we don't do in the United States for various reasons, but capitalism I think is at the center of that. But I think it can lead to a more just society because people are actually going to be in dialogue with each other and have the ability to contribute to society.
And that's a similar point that I was trying to make in my paper. Is I believe the same thing. Like I think that because of the fact that socialism offers basically everyone the same opportunities, regardless of their class or whatever. Like right, it's obviously going to create a more just society, and then it also like you said, I forgot what you just said, but it basically like
it calls everyone in.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense.
Should call everyone in. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is going to be about compassionate society. So how do you believe socialism can foster compassion and empathy within communities?
Another thing, like what that question right before that goes hand in hand with that one, because in order to empathize with people, you have to talk to people, and you have to understand the diversity of backgrounds that people come from and their experiences. And I think empathy may be misunderstood by folks, because I think true empathy, and my personal opinion, is not I should be able to empathize with someone not because I have experienced the same thing as them, but because I recognize their humanity and understand that their experience is valid and how they felt about that is valid. That to me is true empathy. You shouldn't have to see yourself reflected in someone else in order to empathize with someone. And that's just my personal take on empathy. Like, if you see someone hurting, that should hurt you too. It shouldn't matter if you have experienced that same kind of hurt, and that's what I'm getting at with that. But capitalism definitely doesn't foster compassion nor empathy. It actually does the opposite. It wants us to ignore other people and basically look out for you and yours, like I said earlier. But socialism, I believe, could have the potential to create a more compassionate and empathetic society, because in order for it to like work And it's not going to be a utopia because that's not how human beings work, and that's not how societies have historically worked, and they will not work like that. But socialism has the potential to foster compassion and empathy by calling people to talk to one another and be a community. And by being a community, you are surrounded with people with different viewpoints, and you are learning. You have the opportunity to learn by all the people that you're surrounded by, and that is another thing that we don't have under this economic system of capitalism.
Yeah, and I believe similar things, like obviously like empathy and compassion, and then like the justness of your society all go like hand in hand. Like you can't have a more just society if you're not compassionate or empathetic. But yeah, that's
like capitalism, in my view, is it encourages selfishness, while socialism is the opposite.
Yeah. So the next one, speaking of fairness, the next question is about equality and fairness. So can you share your thoughts on how socialism addresses issues of inequality and fairness?
Like a specific type of inequality, because there's like a lot. There's class, race.
No specific
gender.
one, just in general.
Like how would socialism contribute to a more equitable and fair society?
Basically just how socialism addresses issues of inequality and fairness. Like,
can I hold the paper? Because I can't remember what. Okay, so I can like read it and think about it. I feel like I'm like giving the same answer over and over, but community is always important, because how can you address inequality if you're not talking to each other?
And that's basically, like you said, like it is going to be a very similar answer over and over again, because they're all like intertwined pretty much. Like you basically do have to answer with the same answer, because like obviously the socialism is going to create a more just society, because everyone's looking out for each other. You're a collective now. You're not individualistic. You're all like worrying about each other. So you're going to obviously care more about what happens to your fellow person, citizen, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then compassion and empathy are going to be major factors in that. And then obviously with fairness and inequality, or equality and fairness, not really inequality, but fairness and equality are going to be all part of that, because like the whole entire system is designed to like make sure that everyone has equal and fair chance, right? So yeah, like we said, we are going to answer the question with the same answer over and over again, but it was a good answer. I like the answers. All right, so next we're going to go on to socialism and the environment, which neither one of us are environmental natures or anything, and like obviously we don't have degrees in politics or economics or environmentalism or any of that stuff, but anyways, we're going to discuss this. So the first one is what are some socialist policies that you think could lead to a healthier planet? And you may not know actual policies. You might, I don't know, but I don't specifically. But
I could try and like quickly think of like invent policies, because what we're doing right now, the planet is literally on fire.
Yeah.
And capitalism again is very responsible for that. But there's also I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with the term environmental racism. It's where black and brown, predominantly black and brown indigenous communities are surrounded by like literally cancerous waste, or they're placed on top of dump sites, and these people develop asthma, cancer. Like they develop these conditions because their communities are put into these like what's the word I'm looking for?
Horrible places.
Harmful zones. Like they're intentionally put there. So I would hope that a socialist program like that has everyone contribute to bettering the environment. Like off the top of my head, the only way I can think of that is like recycling and composting And
those aren't necessarily like parts of socialism, but I feel like it would be more widely accepted in a socialist society because, like, you know, obviously, like in this individualistic society, like
people can easily write off environmental issues. Like, I don't care about that.
It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
Like,
that's nothing to do with me. Like, it's not hurting me. Like, I don't live near a waste site or on a waste site or, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just really the central principle is like, in order for it to really have a major impact to improve the environment, everyone has to collectively work to better the environment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing because, like, obviously in a socialistic society, like, you're part of a collective society now, right? So, like, if we're all part of a collective, like, we're all going to have issues that we're worrying about. So the environment is a major one. So now we're looking at, well, let's protect the planet as a collective society versus like, well, it has nothing to do with me. I can't do anything. Like,
or one or two people in this whole like neighborhood or community are the only people trying to, and they're like.
And I think that's the biggest. Well, not the biggest. One of the biggest issues with capitalism, like that. Like you said in the very beginning of this little like interview, like capitalism breeds individualism, like, and like obviously if I'm like, I don't know, let's say like the people that are like at the very low social class, right? Like they don't have money to like go out and buy like organic stuff or like
or to ensure that their meat is ethically sourced, or any of the food that they have is ethically sourced.
Or like specific, because obviously like the stuff that's made for like to be easy to recycle and everything is not cheap. Like it's more expensive than stuff that comes in like something that's not easily recyclable. Obviously, like soda cans and like plastic bottles and stuff like that are very easy to recycle, but it's a major issue is like we just don't, I feel like people don't focus because they don't have time, they don't have
time because they're they're constantly freaking working
so
and exhausted, don't have time to think about the environment.
So we'll move on to the next one. So the next one going to be sustainable practices. So how do you think socialism promotes sustainable practices and environmental stewardship? And like these
like
ones,
caretaking of the environment.
Yeah, like these ones are a little bit harder to answer because we don't like know a whole lot about.
Can I see if I can read it one more time?
Thank you for all the likes, whoever's liking the live.
Sustainability. Okay. I feel like such an idiot. Sustainable practices. I feel like this also environmental protections and like policy goes hand in hand with sustainability and climate change. That's an obvious one. But like sustainability, I feel like I need an example. Like I know what sustainability like means, like, but I'm thinking like how
like less fossil fuels.
Okay, got you.
Like more sustainable sources.
Or like cutting back on the production of plastic.
Yeah, I mean that would be a good one. I feel like, but.
How do you think social protect?
But I don't think socialism necessarily has any effect on like cutting back on plastic. Now, yeah, okay, I'll let you answer the question.
I feel like I can really only answer the environmental stewardship part of the question because, again, in a collectivist society, everyone is working towards bettering not just their own community, but the land around them. And one person cannot do that. And I think that's the other thing about capitalism, why it's so crap, is because, like, someone will want to better the environment and want to make a change, but it feels as though they are like one drop in a huge pond and they get burnt out because either they run out of money, they didn't have money to begin with, and they rely on fundraising or donations. And it's like if we all work together, it's so much less labor on other people's backs, and we actually do the work. We're all too freaking exhausted mentally and physically to do the work because capitalism demands that we kill ourselves working. So But yeah, I think that socialism can promote environmental stewardship and support it because everyone's working together to protect the environment and preserve the environment.
Yeah, and then for the same with climate change, I feel like that's pretty much going to say the same thing. Like basically, yes, like it's a major thing with the collectivist nature of socialism. Like people are going to care more about issues like than as a collective than as individuals. Like we're obviously, like we've been saying, like if I'm by myself, like I'm not worried about that because it has nothing to do with like
But it really does.
it does affect us all, but at the same time it's like everyone's like whole thing is like, well, right now it's not affecting me, I'm not worried about it, like it's not gonna do anything, but like the planet is like obviously like getting worse. So but anyway, so we'll move on to the next one. So
Can I say one more thing about the environmental stewardship? So I had mentioned briefly that there's different like branches of like like communism, socialism, and like one branch of socialism is it's named agrarian socialism, and it is what's from what I understand, what's central to this branch is that it's land. Private land ownership is obviously, in my personal view, an issue. I feel like all people should have access to the land. And not access to harm the land, but access to use the land ethically. And I feel like with agrarian socialism, like because land is central, it would support environmental stewardship. And I feel like as people, this is my just an opinion. I feel like as people, as citizens, we would do a better job of like protecting this land than the government. So,
yeah, could.
That's just an opinion, but.
All right, so the next one is about the influence of this. This is just personal experiences and views. So, influence of socialism. How has your understanding of socialism influenced your views on social justice and environmental issues?
Let's see that.
I feel like these are like the more appropriate questions.
Social justice.
I believe I saw something about a question like, what are we studying for, or something like that. This is actually for one of my classes. As I said at the beginning of the live, I'm a college student. I'm at Catawba College, but I'm not really studying. We're doing a kind of an interview about socialism and how it can basically benefit society, but I'm actually writing a paper, and just as the video portion of my argument, basically. So, yeah.
Right. So how has your understanding of socialism influenced your views on social justice and environmental issues? I know I keep bringing up capitalism because it's like I can describe all the ways that just does not do these things, and then how socialism can like push back against that. I think that socialism has influenced me when it pertains to social justice because I feel like a lot of folks in this regard when it comes to social justice, and like it's not to say that just because we aren't like a social society we don't have collectivity. We have positive collectivity around the country, but I feel like socialism would like bolster that and possibly allow us the time to even think about doing that, like coming together. Like we all have to work, we all have to pay continuously rising prices of literally everything, rent, food, gas, all of these things. So, and I don't blame people that, you know, this isn't the first thing on their mind when they wake up, like, and there's also people that have children, so but I feel like my view of social justice, or socialism has influenced my view of social justice because it calls everyone in, like everyone is a part and everyone has something valuable to contribute to the society. And I don't think people know that they have something valuable to contribute. We don't pour into each other here. We're so drained, I don't think we have anything much left over to pour into other people.
Yeah.
But
That's one thing I was gonna say. Like you had mentioned, like social justice, and like, well, obviously the question is like, how does socialism influence your social justice model? But realistically, I believe that well, for me specifically, like my care about social justice issues has increased my care or whatever for socialism, like, because obviously like capitalism doesn't necessarily like look out for the people that are part of that society or that system, right? It's only looking out for a small portion of that society, whereas socialism is a collectivist society. It looks out for everyone. Now there are portions of, or factions, I guess, of socialism that do not necessarily work as well, and they don't necessarily look out for everyone like I believe that certain factions of socialism can, but that's more like authoritarian socialism and like what's nationalist socialism or whatever. Like
there are a lot
whatever.
of different branches.
Because it was like, obviously in the 1930s and 40s, like Hitler was a nationalist socialist or whatever. Like he basically believed like socialist policies, but like they were all not very good. So, but there's factions of socialism that do incorporate like basically a larger welfare state and a more collective society, as well as less government control and focus on government doing everything.
That's you just lit a light bulb off for me. So like social welfare programs. I'm sure a lot of people, now I'm not assuming that all are familiar with the Reagan era. That was a nightmare. For a lot of different reasons, but for the purposes of this interview, I'm just going to talk about how like the far right attack on social welfare programs, that I will never understand as a person who truly wants other people to have literally basic access to water, food, and shelter. I believe all people are deserving of that, regardless of whether they have money or not. Money should not be the measure in which people's lives are saved, and it should not be the measure for people getting access to health care. I feel like that is probably one of the most evil things about capitalism, aside from mass incarceration and a whole slew of other things. But socialism shows that there is a way that we can reimagine our society now, and we really have to dig deep and question like what is the thought process or the people's reasoning. Well, I don't want my money to pay for this person's health care. I don't want my money to pay for children to go to school or to have lunches at school. It's like there's a disconnect here.
Biggest issue is it's propaganda. Like basically like the right specifically, like because I mean I believe people on both sides have these preconceived like stereotypical notions of like what welfare recipients are, and
who they are.
Part of my experiment was one of the studies I used as a reference. I forgot who it was. Well, one was like I forgot his first name, but it's 2C, and like the study was done in 2022. But he basically like used a snap statement, right, and then he put pictures of different people with that snap statement. So basically the study was to see the effects of children's race on support for welfare. So basically, like his study found that like white Republicans were more likely to support welfare if it was if the recipients of welfare were being described as either white or diverse versus being black. And then black people were more likely to support welfare when the recipients were deemed or described as black versus anything else. And then Democrats didn't really differentiate between whoever. It was just whatever. They were willing to basically support welfare regardless. But basically, like, that just shows like people automatically assume like that it's poor black and brown people that are using up welfare or whatever. And that's literally another study I did, and it was conducted between Danes and Americans in 2014, I believe. I want to say it was, I don't know how to say the name. They're either Danish or Swedish or something, but the name's like Arrow or something like that. And then I think Michael Peterson, but they're both like PhDs, professors at some college in Denmark, I want to say. But yeah, the study basically like showed that whenever a recipient is labeled as lazy or like not hardworking, like people are way less likely to support welfare. But if like the recipient is like a hardworking person, like that just ended up unlucky due to like, let's say, an injury, because that's what they used as in the study, like people were more likely to support that person receiving welfare, and they were less angry about that person receiving welfare. However, whenever someone was described as lazy, people were angry about that person receiving welfare. And I think that's the biggest stereotype that capitalism, and not necessarily just capitalism, but like Republicans, capitalism, and like basically like white supremacy has garnered this image of welfare as being like lazy black and brown people that are using it, and that's it. Like,
and that it's
case.
Like they view it as like a frivolous. They see it as something frivolous and not something as a necessity that people need to use so they can eat, so their children can eat. And it's not just like I think of food stamps off the top of my head, but I feel like that's like a slang term. When it's like SNAP, it's like a collection of different programs like SNAP, EBT, WIC.
Oh, there's a lot of programs that go into like welfare.
Yeah, there's a ton, and I can't.
Because like I'm pretty sure like the what is it? Well, what does SNAP stand for? I forgot now.
I can't remember.
It's something to do with children's lunches, basically, right? I don't know, but anyways, I'm pretty sure that program, the program that gives kids like free lunches at school or whatever, I'm pretty sure that's a welfare program. However, like people are always like willing to support that, but then when it comes to like a single mom with like 2 or 3 kids, like people are like automatically like, well, she's fucking lazy, blah blah blah, like whatever.
Or they assume that it's a black woman using it, when in reality, statistics have shown that it's like white women are the population that is using social welfare programs like that. And that's not a negative thing, but it's just like it's not reflecting the racist perceptions that people have of welfare users. Yeah. So it's not matching.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll move on to the next question. So the next one is, can you provide examples of countries or communities where socialist policies have positively impacted society and the environment? Yeah, I was like, it's very strange because like I feel like there's not very many examples of socialism or socialist societies that currently that are working well, because obviously like most of the anyway,
I can speak generally on this, but I will literally have to like I would have liked to have read like a bunch of books prior to this, so I don't feel like I'm like prepared. Like, and this isn't my specialty. Yeah. Like I definitely am interested in politics, and I know at this point most people know what Das Kapital is. I've read Karl Marx. I've read some of the Red Book. and a few other. Actually, that is a lie. I read some readings in my human rights course for this semester about human rights, but also economic rights. I feel like go under that umbrella. I can't remember what his name was. Shoot, but he was proposing a system that, like an economic system that would benefit everyone because capitalism doesn't.
Yeah, and that's. Oh, yeah.
But
sorry.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any like socialist countries, but I do know, at least like in the United States, like we are fed this image of what socialism and communism looks like, and it's always demonized as if capitalism is some freaking great economic system where everyone is so happy when people literally hate their lives and are suffering.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I do believe that there are good aspects to both economic systems, capitalism and socialism, and I believe ultimately I think that a combination of the two would be the most beneficial because it makes the most sense. It's like it caters to both sides, whereas socialism is only catering to people who are like socialists and capitalism is only catering to capitalists. But anyways, that's a whole different topic. But basically, like, most of the countries that are socialist, like
is Venezuela socialist?
It is or was, I'm not super sure, but like the ones that have failed, so to speak, like they usually fail because of like one
leadership.
person. Like the leadership is poor, and then countries in Africa are socialist nation states, but obviously due to like white supremacy and the destruction of those areas in Africa, like, and the removal of people and so many other things, right? Like
genocides, imperialism, colonialism.
So much compounded stuff that has made it like really hard for these socialist nation states to like actually rise up, and they are doing well. I feel like they're not like amazing, but they're doing well compared to like other socialist nations or whatever. But I believe China is also a socialist nation, I want to say, but I'm not 100% sure.
Aren't they like, they have like a mixed system?
Yeah, they have like, I think they're technically socialist or no, they're communist. That's what it is. They're communist, but
they dabble a little bit in like market capitalism?
Yeah, it's like free market capitalism mixed with communism, but then most of Scandinavia is very similar. Like, they have major socialistic policies, but they're capitalist technically. Like, they're free market capitalists mixed with socialism. So it's like I said, like a mix between the two would be probably the most realistic thing. But yeah, so there are areas. What? Why is you a co-host? Yeah, I don't know. It'll decline. It'll auto decline. Sorry, whoever that was. I don't know what you're trying to get me to co-host on, but yeah. So the next question is going to be future vision. So, like, what is your vision for a future society that embraces socialist principles, and how do you think it would look and function? I feel like we kind of have gone over this.
I like to have the words in front of me so I can remember and like think about it as I'm reading. I feel like I could just generally give my vision just for a better future society, socialist or not.
Well, it's pertaining to socialism.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like, basically, how do you think socialism could benefit society? Like, a future society, like, how do you think, like, using those socialist policies or the society would benefit from that?
My vision would be, like I said, I believe all people are deserving of food, water, and shelter, despite if they are able to pay for it or not. I still think, I know people probably think I'm like a kind of like a tinfoil hat person, but I don't know why that's like considered a radical idea. which is crazy. But I don't believe people should be paying for water. Water should be free, but hey, it's just crazy to me that natural resources are something that we have to pay for. But
yeah, that's
just insane. Paying for electricity and water is just like, you literally cannot live without water and heat and air conditioning. That's crazy to me. Anyway, my vision for a future society that embraces socialist principles would have people with equal access to all those things: food, water, and shelter. In a country that boasts how wealthy they are, there are so many houseless people everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's a big city or not. There are probably houseless people in every freaking state here. Mm-hmm. And
there are.
What is insane to me is we have all these houseless people who are suffering from a multitude of different things. They come from various backgrounds. There are houseless veterans that the country proposes that it cares about, which they don't. And what?
That's
but the reason that this country, like why people claim that they care about veterans is because they want to make themselves look good, when in reality there are houseless veterans on the streets and no one cares. That's a whole different, that's a conversation about the military-industrial complex that I can't.
Speaking of the military-industrial complex, I see Chase join.
Sorry, I got off topic there. But yeah, my vision for a future society that uses socialist principles would have people who are able to eat and have a roof over their head in which to sleep, and then have access to health care. So that to me is just. And that is literally like the most basic of human rights that are not guaranteed here. Mm-hmm. And we're also having this administration try to take away other human rights and citizenship rights. And it doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not, because if you disagree with Trump, you're going to get kicked out of the country. But it's a...
All right, so the next question is, what are some challenges or criticisms you think socialism faces in achieving its goals? And then another one, so how do you think socialism can balance economic growth with social and environmental justice? Well, those are two separate questions, but yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing is just human nature. Well, not human nature, but the actions of human beings, just we complicate everything. Nothing's easy with us because we always mess up. And that's fine. It's fine to make mistakes, but the crucial thing is that saying that you're supposed to learn from them. I don't think we've learned from them here. Definitely not. Not at all.
A little bit.
Yeah. And no economic system is perfect. It's never going to. We're never going to have this perfect utopia where, everybody just loves one another so much and just agrees and just compromises so easily. That's not how people work. That's not how the world works. Yeah. It would be really cool if it did, but that's not the reality that we are looking at. So I think some challenges that socialism would face in achieving its goals is people disagreeing with one another and breaking off into factions. Because we have that here. I don't consider myself a part of the Republican or Democratic Party. I would consider myself very, very, very far left. I don't consider myself a liberal either. I hate that word. Anyway, but I think one of the challenges of socialism would be people being uncompromising or disagreeing. Ego, I feel like, would also be an issue. We see that now. Yeah, greed steeps in.
I think also one of the major issues, or not issues, challenges that socialism faces is just the stereotypes and negative associations of socialism, what people have been fed about socialism,
and what it even is. If you I have a very basic understanding of socialism, but I forget that people don't have access to the education that I have had, so I assume that people have even a basic understanding. But you say communism and people are clutching their pearls like it's something scary and violent and inherently bad, when that's not the truth. Not to say it's perfect either, not to say that socialism is perfect. No. Capitalism definitely is not perfect, but I'm not really like biased when it comes to any economic system except for capitalism because I hate it. This is an anti-capitalism interview. But yeah, I feel like the issues we would face or challenges we would face in socialism wouldn't be that much different from the issues we face in capitalism or under capitalism.
Yeah.
But in order for people to even begin to, part of the issue we have here is that we don't imagine anymore. We don't think that things could be different, that they could change. And that's relevant, of course, to the discussion of like prison abolition. People are like, oh my God, like what are we going to do with the rapists and the killers? Like the first step is not that. And that shouldn't be where the conversation ends. It should, we need to reimagine and think of what an alternative to prisons would look like. Just as we can think of what would an alternative to capitalism look like. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense. But
yeah. But, okay, we'll do the last question. So,
Okay.
How do you think socialism can balance economic growth with social and environmental justice? And this one, like, it's another one that we might not be able to answer completely 100% accurately, but...
I literally have dyscalculia, so I'm like the last person to ask about anything to do with economics. I hate math, but I have a really basic understanding of math. But I have no clue how economics function or are supposed to function in socialism, or in a socialist society. But I see the word balance. And we do not have that in under capitalism.
Yeah.
But I don't know how socialism would support equal economic
growth. Yeah. So, I mean, we've been talking about it all night. Like the whole thing with socialism, right, is that it is creating these or more fair and equal systems. The welfare state is obviously larger in a socialistic society, whereas they're more focused on actually providing benefits to each individual person versus it's on a case by case thing, and it's you have to do all this stuff. Everyone has equal access to it, and that's how I think socialism can balance the economic growth with social and environmental justice, because obviously those things are going to happen, and then you're going to focus on environment more as a collective than you will as an individual. And then same thing with social justice. It's those things I was just saying, the larger welfare state and actually benefiting every individual member of the society,
and not disproportionately.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
it's gonna bolster social justice. So I mean, yeah, it's pretty good. Anything else you want to talk about? No.
Other than capitalism sucks, I don't really have.
I don't remember your username on TikTok.
I don't remember it either. I don't know where my phone's at.
Well, anyways, if you want to find her on TikTok, I'm pretty sure you could just search her name, Jasmine Hoffner, and then you should be able to find her. But anyways, yeah, she crochets also, so she's got an Etsy shop, got some stuff on there if you want to take a look at it. And I have a detailing business called The Standard Detailing in North Carolina. Pretty much anywhere in the Triad, Piedmont area or whatever. So basically from Greensboro all the way to Charlotte. I go pretty much anywhere in there. We're mobile, so it's me, my brother, and my best friend, and my mom, all. And she's also helping out when she can. But yeah, check out my other page. It's I believe it's in my bio, but if it's not, I will put it in there. Yeah, we probably will do this again next Monday. I don't know what the subject's going to be yet, but something different. Maybe something to do with socialism, but something else. But or something else entirely. But yeah, I think we'll do this next Monday, but probably earlier in the day versus at 8, 9 o'clock at night. But yeah, all right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for the interview, and have a good night. Bye. And it's not ending.